election. Stakeholders involved in the conduct of the polls forge ahead amid fear over naira and fuel scarcity. The National Universities Commission (NUC) orders closure of universities across Nigeria to allow students to take part in the 2023 elections. And on the interview segment today, we will examine the Kwara State governorship race with the former chairman of the Federal Character Commission and governorship candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, in the state, Professor Shuaib Oba Abdulraheem, as our guest, as well as the deputy spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, Hannatu Musawa, on the party's people-centered campaign. Welcome to Politics Tonight. Stay with us. Back to the program. The National Universities Commission (NUC) has ordered closure of universities across the country. This move is to enable students to participate in the February 25 and March 11 general election. The order is contained in a letter addressed to vice chancellors of all universities and the rectors of inter-university centers across the country. The NUC noted that the directive is from the Office of the Minister of Education, Adamu, and according to the minister, the closure became necessary in view of the concerns expressed on the security of staff, students, and property of the institutions. Ahead of Friday's governorship primary election of the All Progressives Congress APC in Taraba State, the chairman of the committee, retired General Buratai, has assured aspirants of fair play and level playing field. Buratai and his team were at the State Office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Jalingo, where they sought cooperation of the commission in the party's primary. INEC resident electoral commissioner in the state, Umar Gajuram, said the commission's headquarters has directed the state to fully participate in the poll. He expressed belief that with people of Buratai caliber, the APC will conduct acceptable primaries. Meanwhile, Yahuza Abubakar has emerged as the APC candidate for Jalingo Constituency 1 of the State House of Assembly in the fresh primaries conducted this Thursday.
We're here to conduct the primaries, and as provided in the electoral law, it is paramount that we come and also inform you we are here. We believe your national headquarters has appropriately informed you and to come and now link up so that the coordination and the successful primary elections for the Taraba State Governorship elections will be held accordingly.
Got a letter from our headquarters directing us to monitor as usual. Well, definitely, by God's grace, inshallah, we are not going to fail you. We have the APM, the head of department, that is party election and party monitoring activities. Team, and then in fact all of us will try to be.
Delegates have cast their vote and they have reposed their confidence in me again, and I want to assure them I will not take their confidence for granted. I will do my possible best to see that I have represented I represent them in the House of Assembly to the best of my ability.
One of the aspirants in the just concluded purported primary election conducted by the official of the APC from National Office Abuja. As far as we are concerned, this is just a drama, because all what they have done is not in accordance with the instant law as directed by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. So we will not take it. We will now air our grievances through the due process of law. Actually, what happened is just a gimmick.
Let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to speak with the former chairman of the Federal Character Commission and governorship candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, in Kwara State. I'm talking about Professor Shuaib Oba Abdulraheem on the state governorship race. Stay with us.
Nigeria needs focused leadership to take decisive action to end insecurity, reposition our economy for businesses to thrive, and restore total peace in the land. Tinubu is the right man for the job. Through innovation and technology, he will reposition Nigeria for businesses to thrive. Nigeria will export more and import less. Tinubu will reposition the agricultural sector for food security and improve farmers' welfare. Electricity will be reformed for a brighter Nigeria. Health, education, and housing will be more accessible and affordable. Nigeria will be transformed into an entertainment powerhouse, a home of sporting achievement, and a renowned tourist destination. Tinubu's government will build a Nigeria where we prosper together. He has done it before, and he will do it again for Nigeria.
For renewed hope 2023, vote Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Kashim Shettima as President and Vice President of Nigeria. Vote APC.
On the 25th of February, Nigerians will go to the polls to elect President Muhammadu Buhari's successor, as well as the 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives who will make up the 10th National Assembly. On the 11th of March, 28 out of 36 states will choose their next executive governors. And the 993 members of the state houses of assembly across the country will be decided. With over 93 million registered voters, Nigeria is on course for 7 cycles of uninterrupted general elections since return of democracy in 1999. Join me on TVC News for the countdown to the February 25th national election and March 11th state election for all the updates and analysis you need to know. Every weekday at 6 p.m. In the month of February, 4th of February is World Cancer Day.
Welcome back. You're watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am now joined by the governorship candidates of the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP in Kwara State. Professor Shuaib Oba Abdulraheem is the former chairman of the Federal Character Commission, as well as the former vice chancellor of the University of Ilorin. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's start with politics in Kwara State. You were one of the proponents of Auto-Gear revolution that dislodged the PDP from power. What pushed you out of the APC?
Thank you very much. Politics is a very dynamic instrument, if you like. And like Chinua Achebe will say, the world is like a dancing mask. If you want to see it well, you don't stand in one place. So that's one of the reasons. If you don't find the kind of thing you want in a particular, yes, we were in the APC and we were the drivers of the Auto-Gear movement. But the outcome that we expected is a bit on the shocking side, in the sense that non-actors in that event actually took over the reins of power in Kwara State.
All right. I also know that you lost to the SDP governorship primary elections back-to-back before joining the NNPP. Tell us what really happened.
Well, it's the same old story. What we encountered in 2018, direct primaries conducted by the APC, which was aborted by the officers of the party in the state, actually repeated itself, because the same actors in that event moved with us into SDP. And the same objective which they wanted to attain in the APC, which they got halfway, they tried to aspire to secure again in the SDP by trying to manipulate the processes of the primaries.
All right, so to be clear, were you frustrated out of the party or you left on your own terms?
Well, partly yes, and partly no. I would not have wished to leave the APC if I had my way, but things were not going the way that the main actors wanted. So when we moved into the SDP, I found the same kind of team, the same kind of crowd. And they appear not repenting in the way that they want to get things their own way. I had to actually leave abandonship for them.
All right, you're seeking to become the governor of Kwara State. What would you describe as the biggest developmental problem facing that state at the moment?
Well, human capacity development is almost at ground zero. Infrastructure development is unplanned, and nothing seems to be working to a progressive mind, we like to say. Yes, if people come to Kwara, they might be told this and that are going. But you'll find that in terms of infrastructure development, in the last 3.5 years, the president, who is the yardstick of infrastructure development across the states, has not come to find any project fit to commission. That means we have actually a halfway house that we've been building for the past 3.5 years.
All right, so because you have mentioned human capacity development, I would like to know, what do you intend to do differently?
Well, I think the basis of any development of a society, the focus of all developmental programs should be the human content. And the product Constitution is very clear. Job of government is to ensure the peace, security, and welfare of the people. If these are not in the desired contour, I think it's cause for worry on the part of every patriot. I've been living in Kwara continuously for about 3-4 years now. I'm not a stranger to whatever government thinks that they want to bring, but up till now, the people know it, I know it, that we don't seem to be experiencing the kind of quality of work, development, infrastructure in the state. Our education is also suffering, apart from renovation or what they call remodeling of classrooms and things like that. Nothing in the content of our education curriculum appears to be advancing the state towards growth and development of human capacity.
All right, Prof. As a highly cerebral administrator, tell us more about your agenda to bring more development to the state if elected governor.
Well, I think from my own point of view, the issue of lack of development has quite a number of angles to it. But the human angle, which I think is the most important one, is the predisposition of whoever is given the charge to run the affairs of state, to do so with all sense of honesty, particularly to declare to the people that he will run a corruption-free administration. And that's what I intend to do. I know if you remove theft, by whatever means called, in government administration, the resources of the people will go around, at least to the satisfaction of the majority of the people. A situation where you have contract scam and all kinds of scams that defraud the people of the opportunity to grow, and then it calls for worry. And that's one of the points at which I wish to enter politics, to declare openly my zero tolerance for corruption, my determination to fight corruption, and that in that effort, we'll be able to get results for our efforts. There are honest people who are working in the state to make it run, but because the obstacles in their ways by the higher operators of the system lead to frustration on the part of people. So there's a despondency on the part of the workforce in Kwara State. And when you have a despondent workforce, you cannot aspire or expect to get development, whether infrastructure or human capacity development. So I'm worried about these things, and I think that's one of the entry points of the policy of any government that I lead in 2023, to ensure that people get value for money.
All right then. Well, it's a known fact that Kwara State is blessed with mineral resources both in the northern and southern part. I would like to know, Prof, how do you intend to turn this into generating revenue if you become governor?
Yeah, I think we tend to worry more about material things than the human things. Yeah, it's right that you should observe infrastructure or mineral resources and the rest, but you need human beings who have capacity to recognize, to identify these resources, and to actually tap them with expertise. It's not just enough to have the resources. We've always had them in the last 50, 60, 70 years. It appears that the orientation of people who have had the opportunity to run their present government actually been blind to the potentials of the human capacity component of the exploitation of natural resources. I understand what you're saying, and I know what people say, that we have quite a lot of mineral resources that are available for tapping, or we have cobalt and the rest of them. But you see, these things don't just come out. You need people to actually identify.
All right. As a new party, how will you describe the strength and chances of NNPP in the election in your state? Prof, are you there? As a new party, how will you describe the strength and chances of NNPP in the election in your state? All right, Prof, if you can hear me, let me repeat this question. As a new party, I'm talking about the NNPP. How will you describe the strength and chances of your party in the election in your state?
Very strong indeed. Very strong indeed. Yeah, you might say that if you come to Kwara State and you see what's on ground, you find there's an overwhelming support for the NNPP, partly because of its origins. You know, the development from frustration of poor people who have gathered together that it is time to liberate themselves. And they look for identity in political parties that are sympathetic to their plight. And I think naturally people surrender to the leadership of the NNPP. I'm talking particularly the image that is being carved by the leadership of the party, starting from the presidential candidate. He is one of the very few Nigerians who are contesting for high office in Nigeria, the office of president, who is not carrying any baggage of corruption. And if you have that kind of person as a leader, I think that's where to go. If you are honest about wanting to change Nigeria and remodel Nigeria. So I think the NNPP is a very appropriate place for us to go. And it is gaining ground because in Kwara State, people identify the NNPP with the plight of the poor. They think that those of us who are in the leadership have a track record of public service that have been very positive for human capital development, for resource development, and for the growth of our community in various ways. So the majority of the people in Kwara State identify with the leadership and the aspirations and what the NNPP stands for. So we have quite a substantial followership, and not just in our party alone. You will be surprised that as the elections approach, we have offers of assistance, offers of support for persons who are not in our party, who identify that the struggle in Kwara State this time is not about the political party to which you belong, but about the personalities of persons who have come out to want to take on the mantle of leadership. I think it is the trust that is embedded in that perception that is going to be of immense assistance to the NNPP in Kwara State.
All right, so before we move into other issues, I'm also curious to know how much support are you getting from the youth as it relates to your ambition?
Oh, quite huge support from the youth population. The reason being not that we are just coming as a political party, it has to do with the personality of the people who are leading the party. I've lived my lives all through and through for young people. I'm a trades teacher, I'm an educationist through and through. And I've had through that opportunity to bring up a huge population of youth, many of whom have also crossed the threshold of youth, and have also produced youth to whom they tell stories about their experiences with Professor Abdulraheem during the time when I was in Bayero University, Kano, when I came to be Vice Chancellor of the University of Ilorin, and when I also got to the mantle of affairs at the Federal Cultural Commission. These are avenues and agencies to which young people flock, towards which young people look in hope for a better tomorrow. And I think during my tenure in all of these places, the young people in Kwara State and across Nigeria have found me that I'm a very good company indeed. So that's the kind of the attraction that the NNPP has to the young population. So I think there is a lot of hope for young people who are partnering with us because they know that we are not, and I mean the leadership of the party, we are not to scam anybody, but actually to build a future of tomorrow for our own children as well, not just the children of the whoever it is. So I think the youth population in Kwara is very much compliant with the aspirations, with the goals, and the movement of the NNPP, the New Nigerian People's Party.
All right, in that regard, and because you've talked about the partnership between yourself and the youth, in your agenda for Kwara State, what do you have for the youth of that state?
Well, the youth population is actually restless, like it is in every part of Nigeria. But like I said, the real issue is that of trust. Now, is the leadership actually going to invest the resources of the state in the growth and development of the youth population in terms of creating opportunities for them to have the best possible education, which is going to be a weapon for them to weather the storm ahead in the future. Whether the party has opportunities that's going to open for youth for immediate engagement. And I think when we tap the resources that are available to us, there's a lot of accommodation for young people to actually try their own hands in their own creative way to fashion a future for themselves, aided and supported by government policies. So I think the partnering with the youth is quite a robust one. And we're working with youth organizations across the state at present. And we're looking at ways in which we can have a robust presence of young people in the government that we want to form. Not just mouthing, not too young to run, not to this, to that, but actually, honestly, facing the people that we have, actually extending the honest arm of government to actually developing opportunities for young people to actually become independent financially in future, either through participation in modern knowledge, that is actually the in thing, as electronic and communication instruments that people can use to fashion a position for themselves in the world.
All right. Most of the governorship candidates, including you and the incumbents, are from Kwara Central. And many analysts say this could give the PDP, whose candidate is from Kwara North, the edge to win the election. I would like you to react to that.
You need to actually live in Kwara to be able to hazard the answer one way or the other. Yes, the central, I'm from the central, and 3 other contestants are also from the central. But the important thing is not the number that are contesting, it's the quality of people that are contesting and the relationship with the environment. In terms of population, central occupies about almost half the population in Kwara State, about 46, 48%. And the voters' population is also that huge. Yes, that's open for the taking. And yes, we are likely to be contesting for it, but we are not sitting on our house in the NNPP. The NNPP is very, very volatile, very forward-looking and moving. In Kwara North, for instance, we have a very forward-looking young man who's running for Senate, and he's one of the support and pillars of Kwara North in terms of infrastructure development and human capacity growth. Same thing goes to Kwara South. Kwara South is actually the bride of the contest, because Kwara South is the only one not producing any government. But Kwara South knows what it wants. There's none of us that's from Kwara South. So among those that are on the offering, that is those of us from the central, the Kwara South people have sufficient relationships with us individually and as a collective to be able to identify where they think where they think they want to cast their lot. I think we have had a robust relationship with people in Kwara South. I particularly have had a very robust relationship through interpersonal engagements and through professional contacts. So I think the issue of whether there's going to be a problem because there is a plethora of contention on the central, and whether that was going to lead to an opportunity for the dark horse from the north is only a matter of conjecture. Right. As far as we're concerned, we're not sleeping, we're not resting our house. We know the threats that are available, and we're taking preemptive actions to ensure that we don't leave any stone unturned. Yeah, we have one person from Kwara North. He has to prove himself that he's a relevant player in the political scene in Kwara State, especially in the central, to be able to garner whatever it is. Anyway, it's coming again on the wings of hardly credible instrument or organization. We have had decades of trial of PDP in Kwara State, and we've just with one loud voice rejected the continued governance of the PDP and its promoters among our people in Kwara State. So I think it's forward ever, backward never. We will never look back again into an SDP as a savior in the current situation. The APC that we embraced recently is not proving to be a very, not as an attractive or clean bride that we thought we embraced. We found that the underpants of the bride we married are very rotten indeed.
All right, Prof, at this point, we're running out of time. So before we let you go, I would like to know what's your message to the Kwara voter in 30 seconds.
Well, a good time deserves another. The majority of Kwarans that you will talk to, whether they are Yoruba, Nupe, Hausa, or whatever, all this is no who Professor Abdulraheem is as an individual, as a community person, as someone who can be trusted. And I think I can bank on my trust with the people as a means of my electoral victory. I think it is time for people to also pay good with good, to repay the good things that have happened to them through my involvement in the past.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Shuaib Oba Abdulraheem, NNPP governorship candidate, Kwara State. Thank you very much for coming on Politics Tonight as we discuss your ambition and what you have for the people of Kwara State. Once again, thank you very much for coming.
It's been my pleasure being here. Thank you very much, and I thank the audience for the time they spared.
All right. Now let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to speak with Deputy Spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, Anatu Musawa, on the party's people-centered campaign. Stay with us.
Nigerians, my name is Kashim Shetima. I'm the APC Vice Presidential candidate. Here we have 1,776 orphans, vulnerable orphan girls from Northern Borno, all of them victims of Boko Haram, our house and educated, getting the best that the nation has on offer. Look at this edifice. It's about one of the best schools in the nation, and this has been replicated along the length and breadth of Borno, and further sustained by Governor Babagana Umara Sulum. What us into office, we promise you such edifices will be replicated across the length and breadth of this nation, both wisely, vote Bola Tinubu for the presidency of Nigeria come February 25th.
On the 25th of February, Nigerians will go to the polls to elect President Muhammadu Buhari's successor, as well as the 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives who will make up the 10th National Assembly. On the 11th of March, 28 out of 36 states will choose their next executive governors, and the 993 members of the state houses of assembly across the country will be decided. With over 93 million registered voters, Nigeria is on course for 7 cycles of uninterrupted general elections since return of democracy in 1999. Join me on TVC News for the countdown to the February 25th national election and March 11th state election for all the updates and analysis you need to know. Every weekday at 6 p.m.
Welcome back. It's the Watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the second guest of the day. I am now joined by the Deputy Spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, Hannatu Musawa. Thank you very much for joining us, madam.
Thank you so much, Ms. Olajumoke, for having me tonight.
All right. Now, you're generally regarded as one of the writers of conscience in our country, though your father is a prominent grassroots politician. Many were surprised to see you actively involved in the presidential campaign of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. At what stage did you decide to get involved in the Tinubu project?
Well, you know, I've been involved in active politics since 2002, even though I grew up in a very political sort of setting with my father in the PRP and Amina Kano movement. So I've always been exposed to politics. I actively got involved in 2002 when President Muhammadu Buhari, then General Muhammadu Buhari, came into the political arena. So I was part of that movement up until 2011, where Providence brought me to the ACN, Action Congress of Nigeria. And that was really the first time that I was really exposed to Shuaib Tinubu's politics. And, you know, I saw the effort that he made in trying all he could, and given the sort of contribution that he did to ensure that President Muhammadu Buhari got elected in 2015. Because you must remember, in 2003, 2007, and 2011, President Muhammadu Buhari did contest and unfortunately was not pronounced the winner of those elections. It was not until Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board that he sort of gave us the bridge to the south that allowed us to record the victory that we did in 2015. So for me, I've been a great admirer of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and I'm very appreciative of the sort of contribution that he gave that saw the movement that I was part of come into government in 2015. So the minute that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared that he wanted to contest, I was quite interested, and I'm very excited and very appreciative to be part of his campaign team, and really excited to see him and see the way that he's going to govern, hopefully by the grace of God, when he becomes president.
All right, interesting. So as an active participant, how would you describe the contest so far?
I think the contest so far has been, I think generally for Nigerians, has been a very exciting one, because you can see that there's a lot of interest from even areas and quarters and demographics that ordinarily didn't really have much interest. So it's been very exciting from a Nigerian point of view. From a participant in the campaign itself, it's been rather rigorous, because going from one place to another, and you know, in politics, 24 hours is a very long time, and many things change. There's been a lot of challenges, and of course, being the ruling party, you know, you're put in a position where you have to defend so many things, and it's not been, I wouldn't say it's been very easy, but it's been quite pleasurable to be able to interact with Nigerians in the way that we have done and be able to take the message and the vision that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has, and together with Kashim Shettima has for Nigeria. It's been an exciting one, and I really do look forward to seeing how it will play out in the next 2 weeks.
Are you convinced that your candidate has got what it takes to win this presidential race?
Oh, I'm beyond convinced. I'm actually convinced that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be announced as winner on after February 25th. I don't think there's any other candidate that has put in the sort of work that he has done in terms of politics from the from the 1980s. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been very active in the political scene. He's the one person that has built human capacity beyond anyone else. Out of all the candidates, he's the one that has recorded the most, he's been the most successful in terms of being an administrator, as he was in Lagos. And, he has shown a lot of interest in what will hopefully be in the interests of Nigeria. He's shown a lot of interest in contributing to Nigeria and trying to sort of progress Nigeria to a place that we all want it to be. And, he's come up with a very, very robust action plan of his vision of what he wants to be able to implement in Nigeria. And I think with all that put together, I do think Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has all it takes to not only win, but to be one of, if not the best president that Nigeria has ever had, hopefully.
So let's talk about the Northwest, where you're from. People say that is the battleground in the 2023 presidential election. Do you agree? One. And another, what are the dynamics that will play out in the Northwest? Did you get my question? All right, let me repeat that.
Well, I heard the first part of it when you, yeah, okay.
Talking about the Northwest, where you're from, people say that is the battleground in this 2023 presidential election. Do you agree with that narration? And what are the dynamics that will play out in the Northwest?
Definitely, I do think the Northwest has emerged as a battleground. It's not just in this election. I think in all the elections that have gone in the past, it's quite evident that the Northwest is the battleground. Of course, you look at the voting numbers that are in the Northwest, and of course, I'm from the Northwest. I'm from Katsina State, and I always say that the North generally may not be the most educated in terms of demography in Nigeria. We may not be the best traders, but when it comes to politics, the Northerners generally are very in tune. They're very savvy when it comes to politics. They understand the game of politics and how it is played. And so they really participate in a way that gives them that specific power in any election cycle to be able to more or less determine who's going to emerge as the winner. So definitely, the first part of your question, the Northwest is the battleground, has emerged as so. And I think what's going to play out in the Northwest is quite simple. It's, and again, just before I answer the second part of that question, because the Northwest is the battleground of this election, I think we can comfortably say that that would more or less eliminate the potential of Peter Obi and the Labour Party being successful in this election. I think they're going to make a good showing, but I think because they don't have the strength that is required in that particular region, I think it would be very difficult for them to be able to succeed. And then we're looking at four parties essentially that the two main contenders, the APC and the PDP, and then you have the Labour Party, then you have the ANPP. Now, you remove the Labour Party because it doesn't have the strength required in the Northwest. Now you look at the NMPP. Quite rightly, the NMPP has a very fantastic and very powerful head of their party. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso is a very popular figure and a very distinguished northern political figure who is very much loved. But unfortunately for Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, he comes on a platform that just doesn't have the capital or the latitude to be able to record the victory in a way that is required during an election. You do need structure. And the NMPP is a new party that doesn't have that kind of structure that is required. So even though Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso is quite popular and he's from the northwestern region, it will be very difficult for the NMPP to get the kind of to be able to get the kind of support on the ground that is needed, because it just doesn't have the capital or the structure or the latitude to be able to get that victory. So we come down to APC and PDP, and essentially these are the two parties that are really in contention, and even in the Northwest. Now, when we come down to the very variables on the ground, you have to take into consideration the power that APC has in the Northwest. We have a number of governors from the Northwestern region. I think it's only one state that we don't have a governor. And of course, all the governors, being a governor of a state, obviously you have a lot of power in terms of influence of the people within that specific domain. So the fact that APC has governors in the Northwest is a plus for APC that PDP doesn't have. Then again, we come back to the issue of structure again. And you have to understand, even though I know people say that, oh, Atiku is a northern candidate and Bola Tinubu isn't. Yes, rightly so. But even at that, I think this is one election that has to go down local. And you have to remember that on the day of elections, the day that the presidential election is going to take place is the same time that you have the senatorial election and the House of Reps election. And all the people that are going to campaign for those elections are going to do so campaigning for their principle, essentially for us in APC, that is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There is no person on the APC platform that is contesting for Senate or House of Reps that's going to go and start campaigning for Atiku because he's a northerner, and not for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu because they want to win the election for themselves. So when they go to campaign, they're not going to go to the villages where people are not really very educated and start saying, oh, for the presidency, go for this party because he's a northerner, and for my election, go for this party. That's not going to happen. They're not going to take that risk. So, even if there are issues in terms of maybe certain candidates have sentiments as to who ethnic and tribal sentiment. They're going to campaign for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu because they're campaigning for themselves, and that's where we talk about the structure. So I think in terms of the power that APC has in respect of the structure as regard to what I've just explained, I think APC has a very, very strong footing. And again, for us that have been campaigning for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima on the ground, especially in the Northwest, I'm very much involved in the Northwestern campaign, especially in Katsina State. And I tell you, selling the idea of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the easiest thing on earth because they already know him. For years, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has contributed to the lifestyle of the people there. Every time there's a death, there's a disaster, because he's a philanthropist by nature. So he has contributed to those communities. So when you go now and you talk to them about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they know who he is. And they know him to be a man who has helped their communities. They know him to be a man who has been a great philanthropist. And they know him to be a man who has built Lagos State, a state that each of our states in the Northwestern region sort of aspire to become. So it's very easy to sell him. So I can guarantee you one thing. In the next 15 days, as we go into this election, regardless of any challenges that we're going to have as a party and as a campaign, I am confident that the Northwest will deliver success to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the most decisive manner. And we wish to do so because we want him to have a success that will be completely undisputable after the election is announced. The results are announced.
Madam Anatu, you're a young woman, so that makes it very important for me to ask you this. Are you convinced that the APC is doing enough to galvanize the support of young people in this election?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure I'm a young woman, but if you say I'm a young woman, I'll take that. Yeah, you know, when it comes to the young people conversation, it's one that I really find quite interesting, because what I find is when you talk to the media and they say young people, when they refer to young people in this particular cycle of campaigning, I get the sense that they lump all the young people into one basket from the impression that they've gotten on the social media. Young people, there are young people all over Nigeria, and I would dare say that there are more young people in the northern part of the country than there are in the southern part of the country, because the population is higher in the north. So there are young people in the north who do not have access to the sort of medium that have been able to express their views in the way that has created an impression that all young people think one way as regards to this election. I go campaigning in all parts of the Northwest, especially in Katsina, and I don't campaign in the metropolis area. I go to the villages and I see young people all the time, and the young people there that we've been able to engage are extremely excited about the candidacy of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because the young people want Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to bring the kind of innovation that he's been able to introduce in Lagos. They want it to be introduced in Nigeria so that it will be able to reflect in their states as well. So yes, I do think we've been able to engage the young people. It may not be the young people that the media has been able to have access to. There are young people all over the country. So I really do would like to urge the media especially to understand that there are young people all over the country. And just because there are a vociferous number of young people on the social media that have a voice, there are young people in other parts of the country that do not even have access to Twitter. They don't know what it is. And they also have the same right and the same voice. And these young people we've been able to engage and will be able to give, hopefully, to give their support to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I'm very, very confident it is those young people that are going to return him as elected after February 25th.
Particular issue. The Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, is doing very well with the young people, milking their anger and desire for change. Where does the APC stand with regards to this very critical segment of the voting public?
Well, the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a great program for young people in the action plan. He talks about even involving young people in his cabinet. It's something that he's very passionate about. He talks about speaking to the banks and trying to encourage banks to give loans to young people. He has a very robust idea and program that he wants to implement for young people in terms of not only trying to build them up in businesses and agriculture, but also with their education. And so he has a lot of programs for young people. And yes, like I said, you said, yes, Peter Obi has has been able to engage young people, but it's only young people in one specific platform. It's only the young people that have access to social media, and the young people that have, they maybe in the metropolis that are able to access his message. But like I said, there are young people in all parts of the country, and there are a lot of young people in the northern parts of the country that have not been able to even understand what Peter Obi is saying because they don't know who he is. You go to a village in Katsina, you say Peter Obi, they do not know who you're talking about. And that is the God's honest truth. That is just the God's honest truth. And I think we can say this to high heavens, but I think that will only be settled after February 25th when the results return. And you find that a large majority of people in a certain segment of the country are not going to vote for the Labour Party because they do not know, there's no resonance between the Labour Party and them. And you know, this really concerns me as a Nigerian citizen, because I think the narrative that has been put out there, especially with these polls that have been put out, the most ridiculous polls. I mean, to bring out a poll and to say that the Labour Party is going to win in the north, in the northwest, is absolutely preposterous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It really is. And I think every single one of us that are involved in this campaign from every party realizes that. I mean, I guess the spokespeople all have a job to do. You have to defend your position. But that's just the reality of it. But I tell you that the young people from my part of the country are going to come out and stand by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And this narrative that has been created, when the results are announced and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is announced as the winner, I don't want us to fall back on that particular narrative to say, oh, the polls said. But the polls are not scientific enough to completely reflect the reality on the ground.
Right, let's quickly touch some other topics making headlines. Governor El-Rufai has raised an alarm that the crisis triggered by the old Naira swap was the handiwork of fifth columnist in Asurok, intent on seeing the APC lose power. Where do you stand on this matter, and is what is going on enough to make APC lose power at the center?
First of all, I would agree that there's an element of saboteuring or saboteur in this. I don't know. I wouldn't comment as to whether it's anybody in the villa. I don't know, because I think President Muhammadu Buhari was very sincere in this policy that he wanted to put in place. But I do believe that there is people that are fifth columnists, but I think it's more in the banking sector, so to speak, where you have bank service providers hoarding money. And obviously, I also think that this particular policy, as good as it sounded, and as positive as it would have been for the economy, for security, and also to try to ensure that we have credibility in our election without vote buying. We want that too, because we want a decisive victory that will sort of convince Nigerians. So the issue of vote buying is something that we're not interested in. However, I think the implementation has been a problem, and apart from that, I think the people who came up with this policy did not really look at all the variables, and the issue of the internet service provider, whether they had the sort of strength and the bandwidth to withstand the kind of pressure, the overwhelming pressure that has happened. Because you can see what has happened in the last couple of weeks has been absolute Armageddon. It's been terribly awful for Nigerians. And of course, people think it's going to affect the APC, and it may do, because people will look at our campaign and say, oh, the government is putting unnecessary hardship on us, and so let's not vote for the candidate. But you know what? I think it's worked in the reversed way, because Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the only one of the candidates that's coming out and aligning himself with the plight of the Nigerian people. You have the other candidates that are politicizing it and saying, oh, let's continue, because they're only focused on the campaign. But Asiwaju is focused on the welfare of the Nigerian people, and he's the only one speaking out for the Nigerian people. Initially, you had Atiku Abubakar, who came out and urged the government to sort of extend the deadline because it was difficult for Nigerians. But then they decided, PDP, to sort of politicize the whole situation.
Madam Hannatu, sadly we're out of time, but I must thank you for coming on Politics Tonight. I have been speaking with the Deputy Spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Hannatu Musawa, as we discuss APC People-Centered Campaign. It is indeed a pleasure speaking with you tonight. Thank you very much for coming on Politics Tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke, using the hashtag Politics Tonight. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Good night.